this year too for the National Intercollegiate Band. So we have Kevin Day is the composer, but the conductor is actually another UMass guy, Jason Frederick of the President's Own, who is an honorary of the UMass chapter as well. So alongside Rob Hammerton. So, you know, it's a good environment you're part of, Rob.
My reputation exceeds me, okay? If Fennell and I are on the same billboard, I am way down here, you know. Super, wow. Hello, and welcome to episode 61 of the BandWagon podcast for the week of May 12th, 2025. On this edition of the program, news and notes from the band world, including a pair of rock band stories, a salute to a titan of the industry, memories of a commencement band, and the exciting conclusion of my conversation with Matt Parent and RASSII ELLIOTT. I'm your host, Rob Hammerton. Hello, dear listener. I'm going to keep this short and sweet for a change. I've been waiting breathlessly to get to the second half of my conversation with Kappa Kappa Psi's Matt and RASSII, and so now, finally, I get to take in a breath and get it out there. So, plug in your front ensemble subwoofers, and away we go. Let's play the first strain. In this episode's first strain, news and notes from the band world. Dateline, the internet. The rock band Metallica have announced a new prize for their second annual For Whom the Bell Tolls marching band competition. The band is collaborating with the EA Sports College Football to offer a new grand prize to the Collegiate Division I winner, namely the opportunity to record a Metallica song and the EA Sports College Football theme song to be featured in a future edition of the video game. The entry deadline for this opportunity is November 1st, 2025. Bands who enter the competition will have access to a library of marching band charts for Metallica songs provided by Hal Leonard. The members of the band will select the winning performances, awarding 7 prizes across 3 collegiate categories. Those bands will win an aggregate $165,000 worth of musical equipment for their school programs, which will be furnished by numerous corporate sponsors. Dateline, Grapevine, Texas. Credit on this story to the writing and reporting of Tracy Delatte from Fox 4 News in Dallas-Fort Worth. Members of Grapevine High School's marching band performed at a tailgate party for Post Malone's concert this past Friday night at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. The radio station Mix 102.9 came up with the idea to invite the band since Malone graduated from Grapevine High School in 2013. Grapevine band director James Reese described the email he received. Quote, "It was essentially asking, it was sort of a feeler email, like, hey, would you be interested in going outside of AT&T Stadium before the concert and having your kids play some Post Malone stuff?" And our immediate response to that was, absolutely. That's a lot of fun. It's a really cool, unique opportunity. We just have some logistics that we need to work through, and we would like to bring everyone. So, we jumped on that as fast as we could. When plans were announced to the band, members were clearly enthused. Drum major Maya Abed said, quote, "I just remember my jaw absolutely dropping. All my friends were huddled around together and we just started screaming, holding each other, clapping our hands. The emotion was just through the roof." Drum major Elizabeth Marling said, quote, "I'm just incredibly grateful for the opportunity that not only provides me but my fellow band members getting to see someone so inspiring who gives back to his community. It's a great role model to have for everyone in the band program." The band then had about a week to learn 5 of Malone's songs. And that's news and notes from the band world for this week. If you have a news item you think should be included in this segment, send me a link via email to heybandwagon@yahoo.com. Now we'll take a quick break to let the ringing in our ears die down. Meet you on the other side. Okay, let's pick it up at the second strain. In this week's second strain, some thoughts about the band activity during graduation and commencement season. I'm beginning now to see evidence of collegiate commencement ceremonies in videos and photos posted on social media, and soon enough the high school world will enter their senior salute season. I have a nice number of stories from my time teaching at Uxbridge High School on this topic, but today I'm thinking of the experiences I had at the helm of the Commencement Band at the College of the Holy Cross about 20 years ago. The curious thing that I hope no one there knew at the time was that was the first time I had ever conducted a wind ensemble with full instrumentation, or at least one that existed outside my imagination. We've all been there, in front of our mirrors at home, flappy, flappy. At Uxbridge High School, and this is no knock on them, I'd never really had a band with all the instruments. Them's the breaks. We never had tubas or euphoniums. I had one French horn ever. We certainly didn't have double reeds, since we didn't start kids on those at the lower levels. And there were actually only a couple of years where we had multiple trombones. We got by with what came in the door, and no one was the wiser, usually. At Holy Cross, there was not a standing concert band at the time I was there, and their concept of a wind ensemble was a woodwind quintet, I think. So every year around the beginning of April, a gentleman named Doug Weeks, who was, among other things, a music professor at Worcester Polytechnic Institute up the road, would post ads and make calls and call in favors and assemble a commencement band. It was usually made up of 4 or 5 students and about 35 ringers, mainly because the Holy Cross student population was from all over, so a lot of freshmen, sophomores, and juniors had already headed away for the summer. The conductor of this ensemble for a great many years was Holy Cross music professor Bruce Miller. He was actually a choral guy, but he was the closest thing Holy Cross had to a large ensemble conductor, I think. He was also a Gilbert and Sullivan scholar. There are such things, and he was one, which meant that for each commencement ceremony, among the items he programmed was one from those operettas. I'll get back to that detail in a moment. Bruce Miller passed away suddenly during the summer of 2003, right around the time where I was planning for my second year at Holy Cross. So I tiptoed into the Office of Student Affairs, which oversaw the athletic band program, and whispered to the assistant dean, or someone very like that, taking note of Bruce's passing, and not sure whether this is a case of too soon, but if you're going to be in need of a commencement band conductor next spring and you don't have anyone else in mind, I'd be willing to... The assistant dean interrupted me. "You're hired." Shortest interview in history. So I discovered that the timeline for the Holy Cross Commencement Band was Thursday night, May the 20-whateverth, at 7 o'clock, the 35 ringers plus the handful of students gathered in the little band room in the basement of the Hogan Campus Center, rehearsed the selected repertoire, went home and caught a few hours of sleep, and then returned early the next morning to set up, warm up, and play at the commencement ceremony held on Fitton Field, which was the football stadium. Because I was also a full-time high school music teacher at the time, my personal challenge was to lead the Uxbridge High School Band during its Friday morning Memorial Day assembly at 7:30 a.m., wearing a tuxedo, and don't think people didn't ask about that, and then leap into my car, drive pell-mell for half an hour, run down the hill from the parking lot to the stadium, briefly run the Holy Cross Commencement Band's warm-up, and try not to look like a sweaty wreck all morning. The things we do for art. But apart from the Holy Cross Band seniors making sure to visit the band area after the ceremony, which was always great for me, the memories I most enjoy from my Holy Cross Commencement Band work were from those Thursday night rehearsals. Now back to Bruce Miller for a moment, and not to violate the ancient Roman rule about speaking naught but good of the dead, but Bruce was a character. And some found him too irascible to deal with. Others just smiled and nodded and recognized that some folks' personalities were not exactly Fred Rogers. I only met him a time or two before his untimely passing, and I kind of split the difference, again to the extent that I interacted with him much at all. But I guess you can learn a lot about people, and their rehearsal technique, by listening to how other people speak of them. During my first commencement band rehearsal in late May of 2004, I started promptly at 7 p.m., must respect the time of the ringers. We played through half the material, took a brief break, came back and played the other half, and finished at about 9 o'clock. And I got some curious looks when I said we could wrap it up then. But we'd played through everything, and honestly it sounded great. 10 out of 10, no notes. In fact, I'd been pretty nervous just before that rehearsal because, given the array of professional players in front of me, I had thought that my main job was just to look competent and not screw up the conducting too badly, since all these cats knew the literature and had played it all over and over and knew what it was supposed to sound like and look like. So I was standing around afterward, and one of my student percussionists, who was well on his way to becoming the Holy Cross marching percussion section leader, looked at me and said, one of the professional percussionists said to me, that conductor did a really nice job, and he could have been tougher with us. That meant that either I hadn't prepared the band well enough, or that percussionist was used to being beaten on a little bit more during Holy Cross rehearsals than I had done, which, for various important reasons, was not at all. While we were packing up, our principal clarinetist looked at me and said, "You know why people were startled that we were done rehearsing?" I said, "Should we have done more?" He said, "Well, no, everything seemed good to go, but in past years, we've been known to work until 11 or 11:30 at night." I said, "And then come back here at 8 the next morning?" He said, "Well, Bruce really dug into things. Like, a lot." So it was wise of me to want to respect the rather staggering aggregation of band-playing talent and experience in the room. Must not treat them like middle school kids. Did not treat them that way. So what I saw was startled appreciation. Okay, I can live with that. Again, not dumping on any conductor ever, but different people have different ways of working and interacting with people and doo-doo-doo. As we were all heading out to the parking lot, one of the ringer trombones sidled up alongside me and said, "Thank you for letting us play good music." I said, "Well, to be honest, I picked stuff to play that for the most part I knew already, so we weren't exactly going to play weirdo experimental stuff. Also, I figured I had only 2 hours, so let's find repertoire that works well immediately." She said, "Well, true, but let's just say that in the past, we played a lot of orchestral transcriptions and things, and that's fine, but I just appreciated being able to play actual wind band rep." I said, "You can't go wrong with the whole suites or the Vaughan Williams classics or the less convoluted Granger stuff. There's a reason bands sound good playing those." She said, "Well, again, thanks for that. Oh, and it was okay that we didn't play any Pirates of Penzance this year." Duly noted. I know, this sounds like dump on Bruce Miller Day. It's really not, I promise. That's not what I'm doing. I was just pleased that the actual experienced professionals walked out of that rehearsal kind of looking forward to coming back the next morning, and maybe even the next year. That is, after all, the thing I always say. My second most important priority for any rehearsal is to get the music prepared. My most important priority is to make sure people want to come back for the next one. Anyway, the afternoon after commencement, I sent Doug Weeks a note, thanking him for the work he did ahead of time in assembling a grand-sounding ensemble for the day. I mean, I was a hood ornament. They really didn't need me apart from starting each piece. I felt like I was driving a brand new luxury car. I mean, they made it easy for me. And a couple of days later, I got a note in the mail from Doug, which said this: "Thanks, Rob. That was a very kind note. Congratulations to you for pulling it off so well and so calmly." Well, at least regarding that first year of the 3 commencements I conducted, looks can be deceiving, and sometimes that's a blessing. Nobody needs to know that inside I was not calm. But also, anytime I can provide an enjoyable experience for band folks, regardless of whether they're getting paid for the gig anyway, so whatever happens doesn't change that outcome, I want to do that. You never get a second chance to make a first impression and all that tripe. All right, let's observe a grand pause, and then I'll resume my conversation with a couple of Kappa Kappa Psi regional governors. Hope you'll stick around. All right, let's modulate and get into the trio section. This week in the trio section, we'll dive back into the conversation I recorded with Matt Parent and RASSII ELLIOTT. You may recall that they are 2 of the 3 Northeast District governors in the national leadership team of the Kappa Kappa Psi Band Service Fraternity. Last week they described what that meant, and this week, we actually realized that we might do well to double back and cover a detail or two that we'd kind of smashed right past in our enthusiasm to introduce people to the KK Psi national leadership thing. So, in the next 25 minutes or so, we'll do that and talk about some other fun things as well. Here we go. Now, Matt, you said you were a political science major, and boy, howdy are you, long story short. I'm embarrassed to tell you, I'm working to remember. RASSII, did you talk about what your...
No, so I'm a historian by trade, but I work in the federal government now. So I'm supporting all of the efforts of public service from that respect.
And I am given to wonder whether any of those skills get brought to bear on the district governor job.
Absolutely. There's a great amount of political savvy that goes into being a district governor because there are the sensitivities and the landmines that you have to avoid, similar to being in public service. So you got to know
on a good day.
Yeah, right. So you got to know the right buttons to push, the right people to talk to, those type of things. So those skills definitely come into play professionally as well as in my role as district governor.
Do the two of you have some part of your district governor role that has you interacting with people other than the fraternity chapters at all?
It can. From a very functional perspective, when we do our district events and district conventions and stuff like that, we actually serve as point people alongside our professional staff in the national leadership to coordinate with host sites and hotels, and if we're on a college campus, people on the college campus. So we do serve as a face of the organization in a very functional way. But then we also try to leverage a lot of our personal connections in ways that can be beneficial as well. So we'll work with band directors and folks that are not particularly related to the organization, because that service is not exclusive to college bands where we have chapters. It includes collegiate bands anywhere that need that. And so, like, one of our great initiatives nationally, so not necessarily what we do as governors, is we have the National Intercollegiate Band. And the National Intercollegiate Band meets every biennium at our national convention, and people from anywhere, any college can audition to be in it. We have a piece commissioned every year. It's an extremely long-serving commissioning program. The details are up online. I'm sure we've had a number of really outstanding pieces created that are played on a very regular basis. And so that's to serve all of college band and kind of the band world in general. So we try as best we can to work as ambassadors to the organization as well throughout the college band world and the larger band world too.
Yeah, and I'll add to that too. One of the other ways that we intersect, we are also the ambassadors of the organization. You know, we help to promote the ideals of the organization. So one of the things, you don't have to be a member of the organization to support the organization. So one of the other things that we do as ambassadors of the organization are provide opportunities for other folks to get involved, get engaged, make contributions, and donate. Matt mentioned the National Intercollegiate Band. That's one avenue where you don't necessarily have to be in band or a member of the organization to support that, because it costs money, like everything else, to run the organization and to run some of the initiatives and to support the students. So sometimes that's talking to donors and sponsors. This year is one of our national convention years. And with that being one of the national convention years, this is one of the years where that commission piece and the National Intercollegiate Band will perform. But for the first time in our organization's history, we are adding another component, which is the intercollegiate jazz band. And so there are plenty of different opportunities, shameless plug, for individuals to support that as well, because there are sponsorship opportunities available for the National Intercollegiate Band as well as the Intercollegiate Jazz Band. So sometimes that intersection is not just with those in the band world, but exposing those not in the band world or in the music world to Kappa Kappa Psi and understanding who we are, what we're about, and how they can be involved.
And this year too, for the National Intercollegiate Band, so we have Kevin Day is the composer, but the conductor is actually another UMass guy, Jason Frederick of the President's Own, who is an honorary of the UMass chapter as well. So alongside Rob Hammerton. So, you know, it's a good environment you're part of, Rob.
My reputation exceeds me. Okay. If Fennell and I are on the same billboard, I am way down here, you know. Super. Wow. So with all those ambassadorial and other sorts of functions, and in the spirit of accentuating the positive, or at the very least, there have to be stories. Have there been particular moments that have stood out for you in your time as a district governor where you've just kind of thought, not only in band, but only as a district governor would this happen to anybody?
I don't think for me, it's really as much being a district governor as it is being just a brother in the organization. I think many of my fondest memories, good, bad, indifferent, are from being an active member. Matt and I talk about our experiences all the time and our intersections all the time of being active, being in the same rooms, a lot of the same brothers. There are things that we've experienced and places that we've been that, only we can joke about.
Oh, band's full of that.
Yeah, oh yeah, totally. And so I appreciate my time as an active and I cherish my time as an active brother much more than a time as a district governor. I love being a district governor. I love being a mentor. I love, supporting our students. But many of my most fondest memories are being an active brother, like traveling to district conventions as an active brother is one that stands out in my mind because there's nothing like being in undergrad and taking a road trip, Like I don't even remember how I paid for most of the stuff that I did back then or where I got the money from, but I did it. It was fun. Many of my, favorite memories are just from the road trips, meeting brothers on the road, meeting other chapters. And so that's one of the things that I'll just cherish most about my time in the fraternity, not necessarily just the time as district governor, but definitely time as a brother.
Our role as governor is interesting. It's a special role because we get a lot of really great hands-on time with students as well as really serving as a touchstone through all the years that we've been brothers. And so that is, to echo RASSII sentiment, really the best. I mean, being active, being in college band is the best service anyone can do to college bands. And I tell people that all the time, be in bands, be in the ensembles, participate. When you have a weekend off from hoop band or your hockey band, drive down to a school where another chapter is and sit with them. I have just awesome memories going up to the University of Maine a bunch of times and going to hockey games, and up to Syracuse University and down to UConn and down to the University of Maryland a handful of times, down to Howard, down to Morgan State. I didn't go into Western Pennsylvania much, but that's pretty far out there. We love them, but it's a drive. But yeah, the time spent in bands. I mean, part of, I think, why we love to stay involved, and I'm sure Rob, why you stay involved and do great things like this podcast, is because we had such a special time in college, and holding on to that, sharing that with people. You've been a college band director, providing those atmospheres is super important, I think, as we move forward. And if we can even harness that a little bit, I think that's something that we love to do. I do have, and it's directly RASSII related, and our co-governor Marcy joining that team was probably the most special thing for me. It's not anything particularly about that. It's just being able to connect with other people continually in the organization. RASSII and I actually have a really funny history. So we're like brothers now. We're like best friends. We are fraternity brothers, but we're so close. We talk very regularly, and we did not know each other until we were governors together. And it's incredibly hilarious because we went through old Facebook pictures, and there are like 30 pictures from 2005, 6, 7, 8, where we are feet from one another, like over shoulder, like talking to people that we mutually know and had never spoken. It just happened that way. There's hundreds of people at these conventions, upwards of 500 people most of the time. So it's tough, you don't, and we're very similar in age. I think RASSII's just slightly older. Sorry, RASSII. And it's even funnier because when I moved down to Maryland, I moved into the building RASSII was living in a month after he moved out. Oh. So it was like we were fated to meet. It just took a while for our orbits to hit. And so I think one of the special things for me as a governor is to be able to get closer to both RASSII and Marcy, but it's just one of those things you wouldn't have if you didn't choose to stay involved. And I will never say this is too much work. It is a lot of work, right? And choosing to stay involved, I totally understand when people have families and kids, and, RASSII has a young child. People are busy and it's hard to stay involved. And so I don't mean to dissuade anyone from continuing to stay involved after they're done with college band, but you can join community bands. You can help out your local bands. You can connect with people. Rob and I had, the wonderful opportunity to work with the Central Connecticut band together. And that was just amazing fun when we got to do it. So, it's not that governor itself has this like special thing. It does. There are some great opportunities, but it's the whole kind of life cycle of just staying in band and being involved and being around everyone. And the fraternity has been, for both myself and RASSII, I know, a special way to do that we wouldn't have had otherwise. And it's something that not everyone gets to do. And so, we love doing that. We love supporting that endeavor, and we think band is better for it.
RASSII, you have 2 minutes for rebuttal. No.
No, I really echo all of Matt's sentiments. It's the full circle. It's the full circle as a district governor, as an active brother. So as an alum of the organization, and that's one of the things I think that is special about the organization, no matter how you're connected, whether it's initiated as an active member, whether you are initiated as an honorary member, it keeps you connected to the core, which is music and band. And that's one of the things that, I enjoy most, is that just staying connected to the band world. It's unique. Being a musician is a unique club in and of itself. And so then when you can join a fraternity that's connected to band and the band movement, I think that's even more special. And for me, if you're going to be in band, in undergrad as an active, band member participating in band, and you're traveling to all these games and you have all these performances, why not connect with another brother, at another campus? And so that's what Kappa Kappa Psi affords. And so that's what we enjoy. And I think that's really what kind of keeps us connected, is being able to see that in the students, see that when we bring them together for our district conventions, because you realize that the organization is much bigger than anything else that you would have imagined.
Well, it occurs to me that in all this talk of the ins and outs and the nitty-gritty of the national organization, it's worth making sure that some of my listenership will hear me going for this and say, I'm way ahead of you, man. But famously, I can be way behind the curve as well. So for listeners who are still maybe scratching their heads and thinking, okay, band, service, fraternity, what are we talking about here? Let's go back to first principles. Kappa Kappa Psi is ...
That's an important one. So we'll try to encompass some of the big questions. So what is a service fraternity in the first place? So important distinction for us is service for social fraternity. We are a service fraternity, so our mission is oriented around a specific purpose, ours being college band. So our number one focus is serving college bands. There are other charities that do any number of great work that are curing cancer and, stopping heart disease. Our focus is college band. So that's what we do, which is why we emphasize college band so much. We, subsidiarily support the broader band and music world, but that is our emphasis. And we are an organization founded in Stillwater, Oklahoma in 1919 at the then Oklahoma Agricultural and Mechanical College. We have since expanded to dozens and dozens of schools across the country, in the hundreds, and chapters have been around for, any number of years at UMass since 1969. Other schools, decades, or even just a couple of years, as one of our purposes is to continue to expand. We are a predominantly undergraduate organization or active organization, which can encompass graduate students that choose to join as well. And so their experience is our primary focus, the collegiate band experience. And we have a whole apparatus of national leadership on top of that to serve those students. Within that, our primary focus is to promote the existence and welfare of college and university bands. We honor outstanding band members. We try to build campus leadership. We try to create a relationship between the various band organizations and ensembles that are on a campus. And we also try to create an environment that is socially, academically, musically fun for everyone as well. So we do try to provide that emphasis as well.
I've never heard someone so eloquently put our 5 purposes than Matt Parent just did. That's it.
I even did it with using different words, which
I saw that. I totally saw that. I was like, oh, he just totally flipped our purposes, and just really just killed it.
Well, I feel illuminated now in a number of ways. I'm a better honorary brother now, I think.
And we're better for having you, Rob.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the work that you're doing to continue to support college bands, the band world. This podcast, I'm sure, is very enlightening for a lot of your listeners that, want to stay connected, learn more. And so I think this episode will help to hopefully illuminate, what's happening in that respect.
All right. So reluctantly, before we finish up, no, I'm not reluctant about the questions, but I'm reluctant about this. Has been a great conversation. I really appreciate the two of you coming on and doing this. I've got my set of, I don't want to say fluffier, but less resume-centric questions that very often yield answers that are just tons of fun. The first one is always, what's one of your favorite pieces of band music that you've played, either outdoors or indoors, whichever?
I love jazz. Kind of interesting, funny story. So I went to Kashmir High School in Houston, Texas, and there was actually a documentary that came out where Jamie Foxx was an executive producer called Thunder Soul, and we had one of the preeminent jazz organizations, jazz ensembles in the state, in the country, under Prof. Conrad O. Johnson. And so his successor, Mr. William Portis, was my band director at the time. And so got a lot of experiences, did a lot of competitions, won a lot of competitions in jazz band in high school. And so that just created and cemented my love for jazz and that genre. Next to that is definitely marching band, because that also opened a lot of doors and a lot of experiences. I've been in music videos, performed in front of thousands of people. I've performed in almost every stadium, every professional sports stadium in the country through marching band. So we're talking, several thousand, folks. So for me, it's the wide variety of experiences that I've had, both in marching band as well as jazz band. I've played lots of different pieces of music, so I can't really say that I have one. I think if I had to pick one, it would really be any of John Philip Sousa's marches, because they were always very challenging. But I can appreciate the discipline that it took for me to learn, because that discipline is that same discipline that I apply in my everyday life. Marches can be pretty challenging, but if you're disciplined and you take the time to practice, then you can get it, and then it takes care of itself.
You're such a trombone nerd.
I was going to say Purple Carnival, Rolling Thunder,
Thunder,
run the list of other things.
No,
marches
John
that are
Philip
coming to my
Sousa.
mind. Yeah, you're right. I'm such a trombone nerd.
Gosh, I do echo RASSI's sentiment that because my predominant, musical performance background is marching band predominantly. I mean, I did the concert band thing, but I enjoy that too, but marching band is where my heart is. And those big stadiums full of people. I remember we played at the playoffs for the Grey Cup, the Canadian Football League, and we played the can. And I thought to myself, these people are going to hate us. What a wild, weird French stereotype. And they were wildly drunk and absolutely loved that kick line across their 55-yard line, which is weird to march on too. And it was super fun. And for people that know me who are listening, they are not going to be surprised when I say my favorite piece is. Rob is going to know what this piece is. Mm-hmm. So I was not a drum major at UMass, but I was able to work at George Parks and my late band director's drum major academy. And it was a dream to conduct the band. In my last year at UMass, I got to be Jack Sparrow in the performance of Pirates of the Caribbean. And my great achievement was that I was able to conduct the last 8 measures of that piece. And it was when Mr. Parks told me to do it and I chopped up on that podium. It was just one of the best moments of my college career and certainly a highlight looking back on it. And so every time I got to do that, I loved every second of it. I was so thankful for every member of that band, even if they weren't looking at me, for those 8 measures. It's not even the whole song. Just those 8 measures were my favorite. So easily Pirates of the Caribbean and the marching band for me. It's not a hard sell.
So I'll flip it around the other way. Is there a piece of band music that you have never played, but you would kind of like to?
Do you have a quick answer, RASSI?
I don't necessarily have a quick answer, but at times I think I would have wanted to do more in orchestra. I just didn't have a whole lot of time. I did a lot more orchestra in middle school, but when I got to high school and then college, I didn't do as much in an orchestra.
And not just an orchestral transcription playing it in a band, but actually with an orchestra. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, with strings. Yeah.
So my quick, easy, one that I would always want to do is Mahler 6, and I would just want to be the massive sledgehammer. I just think that would be great. But in my memory, again, marching band nerd, UMass marching band nerd too, the piece that pretty much set me on the trajectory to go to UMass was either Birdland or Gladiator. And I was able to go up to the campus to see football games when I was in high school. And both of those pieces, and I actually got to play Birdland, so I can't include that. But the Gladiator medley was so cool. And the arranger for that, Michael Clash, did some interesting things. And so when I listened to the actual recording of like the soundtrack, it plays and I'm like, well, that's not as fun as the marching band part. And so like, Michael Clash actually did a better job in my mind. And so that's probably the specific piece and arrangement that I would want is that Gladiator medley.
Is there a band that you would like to perform with that you haven't, either because you're not the right age now, or you're not in the right part of the world, or you don't live in the right time in history?
For me, it's Earth, Wind, and Fire. I would, we play a lot of it in marching band. It just, the instrumentation is just there and it's dynamic. And I would dare say a lot of the music of that time is just live instrumentals. And so for me, that would be like all of their music is just great. I think there's also a lot of Chicago that's really good. Like there are a couple of bands that I'd just be like, I would, we listen to their music, we play it now, but if I could go back, to the 70s, I would definitely rock, and be involved in any of that. So anything Earth, Wind, and Fire or Chicago.
And mine is, I'd have to rewrite my history, but I did really march in high school because I was in the pit and then I conducted as drum major. So I marched in front of them in a parade, but I wasn't much on the field. I wasn't particularly good at the time either. I think I could hold my own once I started practicing more and got to college, but I would have loved to have done drum corps, DCI. I just think that would have been such a great experience. I never got to do, I didn't really know what it was until I got up to college and got to see the people that do it. And I just think being able to participate in a group like that at the level they play, I don't know if I could have done it, to be clear, but if I could have, I think it would have just been phenomenal. And just, one of the big ones, whether it's the Scouts or the Crown or, just one of the big guys, I think it would have just been so phenomenal.
And last and absolutely not least, have you got a favorite band story you like to tell?
What's your budget for like bleeping things?
I can't. So here's one that will always stand out in my mind that we generally have to like correct the record on to a certain extent. When you're in the collegiate, especially collegiate marching band, there's all sorts of organizations asking you to perform for different things. One of the things that we used to do at Howard University, we always had a professional sports team and an NFL team that asked us to perform, whether it's the Washington Commanders, then Redskins, because we were here in Washington, D.C. Another one that would, always call us for performances were the Philadelphia Eagles. And this one particular year, the Philadelphia Eagles made it to the NFC East Championship game. And they had these two hip hop artists, Ja Rule and Ashanti, performing. So we performed with them at halftime. I don't think it's a surprise to your audience or anyone else that the fans in Philadelphia in that stadium can be brutal. And it just, so it's halftime. I can't remember if the Eagles were up or if they were losing, but as halftime was approaching, like they are booing like hysterically as the band is coming out. So as the cameras are going live, to halftime for these artists, you hear the booing in the background, and it's not the band that they were booing. They were booing the artists. So so it was a great performance. I think, for us, it was really, really, really cold. So I think that helped with the anger of those fans. But that will forever stick out in my mind because it was like all this booing. And I don't think I've heard any louder booing in a professional sports stadium as I did in Philadelphia Eagles Stadium for that particular game, the NFC East Championship game. I think it was like 2003 for that halftime performance.
Oh gosh, there are so many good band stories. A quick hit is playing at West Point. We had our plumes in, and I distinctly remember, like vividly remember the imagery of when they fire their howitzer on campus, that you could see the shockwave go through the plumes, which was just a cool moment. And I'm like, where do you ever get to see that? But then I have two band memories that stand out, and I can't really pick one, but I'll do the purely band one first. And it was at the FCS National Championship. The band got to go down. We were playing App State, And so we were down in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and there was this kind of like pregame gathering, and it was 99% App State fans. We had this little UMass contingent, and I was on equipment staff. So I was there early in uniform setting up speakers to do this little performance. Our band director, Mr. Parks, at the time, was a very smart man. And so he picked very patriotic music. So you can't boo once you start playing. But when the band starts, I mean, we were getting booed relentlessly before the band got there. So I'm, 4 of us setting up speakers. And I will never forget the band coming in like the Roman Legion, just parting the seas, playing our cadence. And it was like, oh, backup, finally. And you split the group. And it was like this little contingent of UMass fans. All of a sudden, we're starting to play like, God Bless the USA or whatever. And like, you're in the South, everyone had to cheer. And you just turn the whole room on these 400 band members. That was like, I'll just never forget that feeling of being crowded in there. And then the one that stands out, and this is not a on the field thing. And it's kind of both a band and a college and also a fraternity thing. So we went to Bands of America to play an exhibition, and I don't know the specifics of what happened, but we drove to Indianapolis. Our bus drivers, I think, were supposed to go to bed, and they didn't. They ended up going out on the town before going to bed, and so we didn't know any of this. So we perform. It's getting late. It's probably 10:30 at night, and we have a 16-hour drive ahead of us. We're about to be on the road, so we're getting off the field, and we get in, and our buses aren't there, which is weird. Mr. Parks comes up to the fraternity leadership and he said, it's going to be like 3 hours. So I need you guys to keep the band entertained. There are still videos, but we basically threw together like an ad hoc talent show. And for those that were there, we did like a vegetable standoff where like, you say a vegetable and people have to act it out. I mean, absolutely foolish nonsense. But at like 1 a.m, having 2 adults act out like physically what a Brussels sprout would be is just a hilarious thing. And you would never do it in your regular life, right? I mean, that's a ridiculous thing. But in the band world, you get these moments, right? And it's these indelible, fun memories in an otherwise crappy situation, stuck in a loading dock in Indianapolis at, midnight, 1 a.m. And a continuation of that, and I believe it was the same trip, where we had the 16-hour drive ahead of us. An hour in, the saxophone bus broke down, but it's the middle of the night. So Mr. Parks had the color guard bus stay with us. And so the saxophone bus and color guard bus were stuck at a rest stop, and saxophone all got off. We took over the rest stop. The color guard, however, had all fallen asleep. It was like, so this is like 1 a.m. We're on the road for maybe an hour. And so 6:37 in the morning rolls around and we're at a rest stop, and all the color guard starts rolling in like, oh man, we must be getting kind of close to home. We're like, actually, you have gone 1 hour. And so it was just one of those trips where you just, you make the best of it. I think they had a blood pressure cuff, and mine was in like deep heart problems at the moment. But I mean, that was just the nature of it. So a long-winded story, but I think the moral of it is just that those band moments are just so hard to recreate in literally anything else. And I'm sure there are people that play sports or whatever that would say they've had similar, but I never did. So too bad. I think it's a band thing. And for me, and probably most of your listeners, it is too.
I totally agree. Like, I think almost everyone can identify with a band bus story. Ours was, we had what I think it was the same trip when we were on our way to Philly and we're leaving DC. And like right before we get to Baltimore, like we're laughing, joking on the bus, and we see this wheel roll by the side of the bus, and we're like, somebody lost the wheel, and then it's our bus, So we're pulling over on the ramp on 95 right outside of Baltimore, waiting. So similar to yours, like, so then everybody on bus 3 had to pile up on bus 1 and 2 because we still got to get to this performance.
When we sing "The wheels of the bus go round and round," this is not what we mean.
Right.
Oh my God.
Totally.
Well, gentlemen, it has been a genuine pleasure. Matt, Matt, you and I go way back, so I could have predicted this would go well. RASSII, you are as advertised.
Oh, you're too kind. Thank you. I appreciate it.
We will make sure to get links to the Kappa Kappa Psi website and various important web pages, including the ones with your pictures on it. We'll throw those into the show notes. Make sure people have a chance to go and find out more about either their organization or the organization that a friend of theirs is in from band.
And feel free to contribute. If your viewers are listening, if you'd like to support the college band movement and the students and the work that we do, feel free to donate.
Matt Parent and RASSII ELLIOTT, two of the three musketeers, I suppose, two of the three Northeast District governors for Kappa Kappa Psi, the band service fraternity. Thank you so much for doing this, and I really look forward to chatting with you on a number of other topics again.
Absolutely. Feel free. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob, and thanks to the listeners, too, for spending the time with us.
Okay, we'll take a quick break and be right back with more Bandwagon. Here comes the dogfight. This week's dogfight is a little bit of on-the-spot reporting. A couple of Saturday nights ago, quite a few UMass Amherst band folks gathered on campus to celebrate a retirement, belatedly. 5 years ago, Thom Hannum announced that he was going to step away from his day-to-day role as associate director of the Minuteman Marching Band. And then, of course, it being 2020, the earth shut down and whatever commemorative plans that were underway had to be shelved. It was decided that such an event should happen this spring, and so on Saturday, May 3rd, it did. People came from all over, UMass marching percussionists and marimba band members who drummed under Thom's watchful eye, representatives from at least one of the companies for whom Thom has been an endorser for most of 4 decades. The Campus Center auditorium was very, very full of people who were there to pay tribute to a career built on a staggering work ethic, on incredible attention to detail, on notable economy of language in the service of teaching. As I arrived at the registration area for the event and got my name tag, I looked around at all the percussion folks who were already there well before the event got going, and I thought, I feel like I'm crashing somebody else's party. Famously, I am merely a dashboard drummer, certainly nobody who would get into, never mind survive, one of Thom's drum lines, be it UMass or the Crossmen or Cadets or Carolina Crown or the whole blast thing. But a couple of other attendees did help me realize that there were, in fact, plenty of folks there who were there because they had been part of the UMass Hoop Band that Thom established in the mid-1980s, or because they were on field staff with the band and so worked with Thom in that capacity, or they had benefited from Thom's band leadership during the 2010 season when his job was to keep the UMass ship afloat after George Parks' sudden passing. But in spite of the fact that a guaranteed 85% of the room were percussionists, and it wasn't until the thing was almost officially over that we heard a pack of drummers playing check patterns on a tabletop together. In spite of that preponderance of percussion, yes, the whole point was to appreciate Thom for whatever reasons. For me, it was a lot of those reasons, but particularly I felt that I should have made a little button to wear that said simply, Hoop. And I was also there to salute Thom because thanks to his willingness to try me out as a 19-year-old wannabe hoop band arranger, and then his willingness to continue to consider that a good idea, and then his willingness to advocate for me as a potential arranger for the Powered class in New England, I think his phrase was, we got to get you writing for the field now. Any success I've ever had as a band arranger has come because of the opportunities that Thom was willing to offer me. And there were an awful lot of people in that room last Saturday night who could say the same, that they had benefited from Thom's generosity, his willingness to lift other people up professionally. You can hear it quite obviously in the work of a lot of drumlines, both band and drum corps, that are now instructed by Hannum students. The characteristic sound, driven by the characteristic approach to teaching and learning, is right there. And, whether people knew it or not, anytime they've heard a band arrangement of mine, they've been hearing the Hannum effect too, in a way. I will never not acknowledge that. One tiny postscript to all this, that celebratory event was so engaging, so much fun, with so many people nearby whom I hadn't seen in a while, and in some cases I hadn't seen them in something like 10 or 15 years, and I was living so in the moment that I didn't check my phone once all night. Well, one thing I also did not do, which I had meant to but didn't, was I didn't use my phone to record any audio from the event, which I could then bring to you in my role as on-the-spot reporter. Some journalism major I am. Okay, after this brief message, we'll wrap things up for this week. Thanks for continuing to listen. Hey everyone, it's Rob here with a quick word about a music store serving eastern Massachusetts and also, quite honestly, the whole wide world. It's called Music Go Round Boston, and let me describe why that's a really great name for what they do. Music Go Round buys and sells quality used musical instruments and accessories. You can bring in your quality used gear and get paid on the spot, or trade for the gear you need now. They buy gear all day, every day, with no appointment necessary. Their staff are passionate about and experts at evaluating the value of used gear, and they operate on a business model of customer transparency. When they make an offer to buy your gear, they explain the basis of their offer, and they tell you how much they hope to resell your instrument for. They first opened in 2010 in a small storefront, quickly grew a dedicated following such that they were buying more used gear every day than their little place could hold. So, in 2014, they bought a building across the street and built a wonderful space that's welcoming to all, from the just curious to the professional musician. And, crucially, in late 2015, they hired me to be the guy who advertised the used gear we'd just bought in on our website. And when something was purchased online, I packed it up and shipped it out. I had a basement lair and everything. It was where we kept the gear we'd bought in for a couple of weeks before we brought it up to the sales floor. We called it the Vault. And that's partly why I'm talking to you about them, because from late 2015 to early 2019, I had a big old blast working for them. They're good people, and they weathered the COVID pandemic a few years ago to come back stronger than ever. And for the past year, they've hung a BandWagon podcast sign front and center on their checkout counter. You see it as soon as you walk in. They've been very kind that way. So, if you're local, go visit Music Go Round Boston at 810 Worcester Road. That's at the intersection of Routes 9 and 27 in Natick, Massachusetts. Or if you live further away, go on the web to mgrboston.com and take a look at what instruments and gear they've got in stock. And come back often to the store or to the website. It's never the same store twice. To wrap up this week, let's take the CODA. For the CODA this week, a brief quote that I spotted recently from a letter that the justly famous composer Vincent Persichetti wrote to the justly famous band conductor Frederick Fennell. I always enjoy eavesdropping on the conversations between titans of our industry. We got a little of that during my conversation with the great Frank Battisti a couple of months ago, and if you missed that episode, do go back and listen to it. I'll link it in the show notes, because, you know, some people have earned the right to drop names, he said, dropping names. Anyway, I'd love to know the larger context of the thought that Persichetti offered to Fennell, but even on its own, it's an intriguing window into the time in band history when the concept of a wind ensemble that played music written specifically for band was kind of new and was still being challenged a bit. Persichetti wrote this: "I guess when strings do not enter into such a combination, one calls the medium band. The word band has always sounded good to me. Of course, when a musically ill conductor waves at rusty clarinets and consumptive flutes and loose-valved trumpets, who are playing bloated versions of orchestral music in microtones, and the benches are gum-coated, one hears a bad medium. However, a sickly string quartet playing a padded arrangement of a piano sonata sounds even worse. So let us respect the medium band, or wind ensemble. God bless you for the term, and your musical generosity, skill, talent, and love." So say we all. That's BandWagon for this week. Thanks as always for downloading and listening. BandWagon was written, researched, and produced by your humble host. Musical interludes were produced by Hammerton Media, from source material largely by John Philip Sousa. You can listen to more episodes at the pod's website, heyband.podbean.com. Please give me feedback. Let me know what you like or what you think might change. You can do that using the email address heybandwagon@yahoo.com, or leave a 90-second voice message by going to speakpipe.com/heybandwagon. Be aware that I do reserve the right to include your message on the podcast, unless you say otherwise. Those contact links and links to this week's news items, conversation topics, and my interview guests, Matt Parent and RASSII ELLIOTT, can be found in our show notes, as can a link to BandWagon's merch store, thanks to the good folks at TeePublic. Please share the show on social media, and thank you for that. If you enjoy this podcast, please do share it in the direction of someone whom you think might not be a listener yet. Word of mouth really is the best recruiting tool. And to keep up with the pod every week, subscribe to BandWagon on the Podbean app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are sold. For now, take care, stay in touch, stay in tune, and we'll do this all again next week. I'm Rob Hammerton, and it is an honor to be selected to serve.